G'day ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, and everyone else who may be watching. We've got some Heart of the Swarm action coming up right now. It is going to be, well, it's a custom game, a PvT, on GSL Whirlwind SE. And our Protoss player, the red Protoss down at the bottom left-hand side, is our player from ESC. It is Daisy. And his opponent to the top right as his purple Terran foe is going to be Goody. So this is yet another game from Goody's replay pack that was just recently released. Of course, if you want to have a look at that, jump onto the ESC gaming website and have a look for yourself. There are some really interesting games. Of course, if you're wanting to sort of look more towards learning a bit of Terran mech and just perhaps give yourself some thoughts about how to play some Terran mech, including against Protoss, as I'm sure we will most likely see here today. The replay pack is really interesting to look at. Like, I know a lot of people are not fans of the way Goody plays, whether it be because of his little seemingly highly likely chance that he's going to supply block himself constantly through the game, or whether it be just because the game's very long and very passive because it's a mech style. They're still really interesting games. At least to me, I love watching mech players, just generally speaking, of course, even if it's not a notable mech player, but just anyone sort of playing a bit of mech. It's a very interesting style. It's very dependent on being very strategic with your movements, being aware of what's going on the map, of course, and being aware of things that are happening so that you can react quickly to various changes that your opponent may make. Now, this of course is accentuated in TvP, where it sort of takes all those factors I just pointed out and takes them to the next level, because in TvT or TvZ there isn't so much pressure on you to be very careful with all of the things that you're doing. So we'll see how good he goes today. I am assuming that he is going to go for a mech play. We did get a gaff very quickly there following up the supply depot, so I am assuming we'll probably see a factory go down straight away after the refinery was started up here very quickly. The refinery, there it is, it was completed early, meaning that he'll have enough gas for the factory straight up. Meanwhile, for Daisy, getting his expansion going as quickly as possible. We can see that it was just a basic sort of one gate expand. And we'll keep an eye on how he decides to go here. I'm sort of assuming, given that they're teammates, that Daisy would have seen quite a lot of Goody's HOTS TvP mech, but I'm wondering if he's going to be able to defend against it, because Goody, he's sort of taken mech to the next level, and I mean, there are a lot of considerations, especially in Heart of the Swarm now, with things like the Tempest coming out. They can deal with battle cruisers, of course. Generally, end game as a meching player, you're going to be wanting to look towards things like Ghost, battle cruisers, maybe with the support of Vikings and things like that. But with the Tempest out, it can be a little bit frustrating with the various ways that you can utilize some of the new Protoss sort of things to disrupt any harassment. It can be hard to harass as a meching player. Like, it's already quite hard, just given that the only real way you can harass when playing mech is to use Hellions. But when players are able to use the Photon Overcharge on a Nexus to protect a mineral line, it can be a lot harder to do. So we'll see how good he decides to go about this at the moment. Just looks like he is opening up a very standard sort of style that you see from mech players, which is to, and there it is, the Goody supply block, but which is to go for a reacted factory with a starport following it up. Now, you can utilize this in two ways. You can get out a very quick Raven to poke around and just try and find any early observers that might be about. You can also use drops. Some players like to go for an early Cloak Banshee or something along those lines, but they're sort of hard to transition with. It costs quite a lot. It means that you'll be suffering a little bit in the rest of your simple sort of base defense, and of course your expansion is going to be a little bit behind. So I am pleased to see the Goody is not going to go for something like that, at least not for now. It does look to be a medevac play. Of course, Widowmine drops extremely common in Heart of the Swarm in basically, well, I guess any sort of matchup right now. After Hellbats were nerfed their size, they got a bit fat, they need to go on a diet. These Hellions, very thin. They eat their veggies, they get a lot of exercise, but the Hellbats, they chock up on McDonald's and all those kinds of things, so they do take up 2 spaces in in a medevac. Of course, as we can see here, the Hellion only taking up just a couple of spaces there. Able to fit that in with the double Widow Mine, so it is going to be a drop down here. Assuming it is going to be the main base, there are a couple of Stalkers to defend. 3 in total. One of them is, well, that one's, I think that one's blocking off that path. That's pretty cute. The other 2 just up towards the front door there, but the front door, speaking of which, is covered for the moment. Looks like a Stalker and a Zealot just going to sit there for the time being and protect that front door. Meanwhile, the medevac going to make its way in very soon. Of course, you do need to keep in mind they have Ignite Afterburners, and here it goes. Zooming straight in, he's going to drop down the Hellions to take some of the shots, but it looks like the Widow Mine's going to get inside anyway. Will they launch a missile? Yes, it does. Connects with one of the large packs of units there, and in fact, the Hellions are able to get a really good amount of damage done. Although a very tactful hold position on one of those workers there was nicely done, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but I mean, 11 workers killed, and we haven't even gotten very far in the game yet. And it looks like Goody did go for a secondary attack at the natural as well, but there was a Stalker here or 2, and not to mention the Mothership Core and a cannon. So very nicely done in this opening gambit from Goody. He's able to get quite a lot of damage done. The Widow Mine's still here to protect against those units. Of course, they one-shot every single gateway unit, and Goody's attack is finally thwarted with the assistance of an observer. So Goody has done a really wonderful amount of damage here. He's been able to get his orbital command running down at the natural here. Of course, back at home, he's got his 3rd command center on the way, along with the 2 factories starting to pump out units, along with the starport continuing to bring out a couple of medevacs as well. Now, I'll be very interested to see if Goody continues on with some of these medevac drops, because he's in some of the replays that I've watched in this replay pack, he'll start off with some very heavy harassment right at the start with the medevacs and Hellions and all these kinds of things, but then after sort of the first main attack, virtually nothing else happens. He'll sit back, he'll turtle up as meching Terrans they sort of have to do. You have to turtle and tech at the same time, the 2 T's of tiers. And we don't really see players doing too much, but Goody is going to continue. He's going to come out with another attack here. The medevac speeding across the map, trying to see if he can get across in time. It looks like this observer is actually going to catch the medevac just in time. They're very nicely timed. Well, whether he meant it or not, nicely timed by Daisy. He's able to catch out that medevac is on the way, moves some of these Stalkers into position, and I highly doubt this is going to get anything done. So Goody is going to have a quick look through. Ignite Afterburners is probably going to activate in a second. There it is. He says, oh, okay, maybe not. There's too many units here. Not going to get any damage done. Not to mention now, there are forges that are blocking off the back of the mineral line there. So there's no real way that he can constantly do merry-go-rounds in the mineral line with those Hellions. So he does have to back off for the moment. I do like that decision. And we'll see him continue to macro up. So Daisy, meanwhile, of course, the pressure has been on him. So he has had to sit back. And I mean, it sort of takes the old QXC motto into thought here, in that if you're not attacking, you're losing. And I mean, we look at the score with Daisy sitting at 67 supply. He does of course have Protoss, which means that they're very efficient units. But when you're against a Terran player who is meching, that is also very efficient in itself, because of things like the tanks. They do their massive damage, not to mention it splashes and all these kinds of things. And Goody has kept his opponent on the ropes for now. So I am really impressed by how Goody has been playing right now. He will have to catch up in the tech very soon, because his opponent has already got the double forges spinning away. +1 to armor is already done. Shields and weapons are being researched right now. Not very often you get to see this little upgrade spinning along there at the forge, but Goody will finally catch that. The scan, getting a quick view on what's going on inside the main, sees that there is triple forge. Okay. Well, that explains part of why his upgrades are going so well right now, but triple forges are here for Daisy, so, very interesting that he went that direction. I think he must have forgotten that there was already one of them there, so, we may see him try and take advantage of that later on once the Twilight Council completes. But Goody, now looking to get a 3rd base. He's got his starport switching over, probably going to start Viking construction now. Mainly when he's been playing against Protoss players and getting mech, he'll just blindly get some of those Vikings out. Of course, his scan before did see that there was a robo there, but he doesn't know whether or not Colossi are going to get started, whether or not there is something, there is a Stargate play coming about. Of course, he hasn't really been able to gather too much intel on what's going on the right-hand side of the base there, but you know, you have to be very prepared, and that's one thing which does catch out quite a lot of Terran players who try and mech in TvP, is that Vikings are really, really required. Whether you get them blindly right at the start and just pump out like 6 or 8 of them, or whether you actually react very quickly to seeing your opponent's Stargates, you do need to have them out, otherwise you actually have no chance of winning in TvP mech these days because of the Void Rays. Mainly, they do so much damage. They tear apart all of the mech units. They do a huge amount of damage in conjunction with the Tempest as well. The Tempest are able to throw out, of course, their massive damage from long range, and you know, you just have to deal with that. And it's sort of like when you play in PvZ, and then Goody supply blocked yet again. It's like when you play PvZ, and it's like if you suddenly get caught off guard by mutas. If you start out with some Phoenix, you're never going to catch up, and you're going to have a very hard time of dealing with those mutas if you're trying to play catch up with your Phoenix. So it's always a very good thing to have a few Vikings out right at the start. At the moment, we haven't seen Goody go for that just yet. He's getting some more medevacs out, which is going to help out with his very heavy Hellbat force here, and he is pushing across the map with a large contingent of these units here, with the Hellbats at the front, able to do a lot of damage to some of those Zealots there as well. They, of course, do have +1 on their weapons, and he's just going to walk in right now, and there isn't really too much that Daisy is going to be able to do against this. He's sieging up at the front door, getting the tanks in position now. The third base very much exposed right now, and Goody is probably just going to be able to stomp through all of this. It looks like the main Protoss force from the side on the left is approaching. The Immortals targeting down some of those tanks. Very nicely done. He's going to retreat after doing that, but I mean, there is so much damage being done here in the third base. It looks like the Hellbats just trying to go to work on that Nexus. That some of the probes have been destroyed as well, but Daisy is safe for the moment at his front door, but he has lost his third base. He's lost a lot of probes. He's going to lose some of these pylons and the gateway that is there as well. Back behind all of this, Goody is able to get up his third base. He's got nice mining going. Worker count at 44 to 63, which puts Goody in a fantastic position right now. He doesn't even necessarily need to push in. I'll be very surprised if he just goes hard at this and tries to push in, but well, it looks like he is going to go for it. Has no real vision of what's going on, but with the Hellbats at the front, of course, their upgrades are starting to come along. We got +2 on their armor coming about, but even with +1 weapons only, these guys are doing a huge amount of damage, and Daisy could be in trouble this early on in the game. I mean, it's only the 17-minute mark, and a mech player is just going to stomp all over this Protoss, but I mean, if, you know, perhaps he can get a little bit of salvage, if he can save some of these probes, but the Hellbats, of course, wanting to roast up those probes as much as they can. Looks like a few Immortals now coming to the front, and they are able to take down those tanks, but that means that the attack will be over for now, and Goody is forced to speed out of there with the Ignite Afterburners activating on those medevacs. They're going to get out of there, and looks for a second attempt at dropping in the natural base there, but no chance of that. The Protoss forces are still there, and Goody, he's done a really, really good job right now. He's up at 157 supply. It looks like there will be a Warp Prism pushing across the map. Goody behind all of this is macroed up like an absolute champ. He's up to 175 supply. We've got a couple of mines strewn in this little pack of units. We've got all these Hellbats, the tanks as well. A DT going to come about and try and do something to that, but not really going to go too well there. He's still continuing to produce units behind this as well. We've got Thors now coming out, a couple of Hellbats, Hellions as well, along with the Drilling Claws upgrade on those Widow Mines, so they'll be able to burrow extremely quickly, getting them into the battle just so fast, and it means that they are able to put down their attacks, and there we go. Unfortunately, the upgrade is not done just yet, but I mean, there is already so much inside the front door here of Daisy, and look at what he's got to deal with. He's got to deal with these Hellbats at the front, he's got to deal with the tanks all the way at the back here, and he's going to lose quite a lot of his units here, if not this entire game very soon. He's going to try and counter by dropping in some DTs and Zealots inside the main base of Goody. Goody with no real protection here, but you know, when it comes down to it, it's just a bunch of Zealots. If he can switch over some of these Hellions here into Hellbats, then he should be okay. But you know, the big question is Daisy going to be able to survive long enough to actually reap the benefits of that attack? He's got 5 Immortals sitting at the top of the ramp. 2 upgrades are done, and well, they're going to be holding holding out at the front door for quite a while. I'm not sure if these Hellbats have the greatest idea just trying to walk in. Back at home for Goody, he did finally clean up that attack. Hellions and, of course, a single Thor is able to help with that deflection. But a DT now inside the third base, hacking up some of those units. 18 kills on this guy. He's a master. That's how good he is right now. And it looks like he will be able to take the turret down, and that's going to be nice for him. He'll be able to go to town on the rest of the workers and the units here. But Goody, he's cleared out the natural. Nothing else left here. The worker count sitting at 29 to 46. Even if you look at that as sort of a situation where, well, where you're like, well, Daisy has done a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, not enough. He's down there with his supply count so low, he's going to try and drop into the third base yet again, but no chance of that. Hellions and Hellbats coming along. All of the Hells are available to deal with this, and Goody is now going to look towards a fourth base. He's already getting that established. Planetary Fortress coming up in just a moment, and with the turret there, that's going to be well protected against basically anything. And these Widowmites, my god, Goody has just got them sitting there just tempting Daisy to come out and play, but unfortunately Daisy has no observer just at the moment to deal with that, and in fact has got just an immortal on the way, so he's not going to be able to come back into this. Goody now up at 200 supply. We'll probably see the GG out of Daisy in just a moment here. He may try a final push with Immortals? I don't know. But he did actually just lose one of the Immortals to a Widowmine. Not every day you get to see that. So it looks like Goody able to establish his economy very nicely from the start. Did a lot of damage to Daisy right in that early portion of the game as well. And it looks like the Widowmine, will it get a shot off? Yes, it does. It actually takes down the Immortal that was there. Interesting that the Hardened Shield doesn't protect against that. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought that would. But anyway, Goody, he's just going to move into position right now. The Destructible Rocks, I hate how they're selectable. Anyway, Goody just going to move across now. He's got more than enough to deal with these Immortals, despite the brilliant upgrades that Daisy has on his Immortals right now. 3-2-2. It's a huge amount of extra firepower that these guys have, and he is going to try and drop inside the main base yet again. We'll try and deal with some of those supply depots, but unfortunately, the approaching mech army is just way too much for Daisy to deal with. Trying to do his best to start to step back those Immortals, but there is so much firepower here. Even with just 1-1, these Hellbats, supported by the Thors and the tanks at the back, will be easily able to dispose of these Immortals. And Daisy GG's after his Immortals fall. And that is going to be it for this game. Very well played by both players. Of course, Goody coming out in front right at the start with those with the Hellbat and Widowmine drop. A very nice kind of play to take advantage of your opponent at the start. Able to macro up after that, switch into mech, get a couple of upgrades going, and then just get some really well-timed pushes. So wonderful stuff from Goody there to see the mech TvP yet again. Hope you all enjoyed that game, and I'll catch you all next time.